The banking industry has now a complexity machine that it has begun to perfect. Now think about how this complexity machine started. It started back in the 1980s as credit cards started getting more complex over time. Because the central insight was that if you just really have 3 or 4 basic terms, everyone can read them, it's a really competitive market, and that means profit margins are very, very small. But if you can put things back in the fine print, and it doesn't cost you customers, but it builds revenue over time, those $29 fees, catching people once they have balances and upping their interest rates from 9% to 29%, that becomes a model that basically revolves around complexity. Let me give you a very complex product, and you won't figure out which product is you won't be able to make the comparisons, which product is cheapest, and you won't be able to decide in advance how much it costs you. So complexity started in credit cards. It morphed throughout the financial services industry. The mortgage lenders, I think, very much took a page out of the book of the credit card issuers and said, wow, you know, we don't have to have those dopey old plain vanilla mortgages. We can really get snazzy here, and thus were born liar's loan, teaser rate mortgages, you know, lots of things that were born. Actually, I think much of this borrowed from credit cards, and so on throughout financial services. So that's sort of step one. Step two in the complexity machine is what happened not just at the consumer level, but what happened at the worldwide level. Take a look in higher finance at derivatives, right? At credit default swaps. Has anyone been reading the books that come out of this? As our financial titans explain, I wasn't really quite sure what those things were. I didn't quite know what it was that we were trading. Oh my goodness, you mean we were aggregating risk rather than dispersing risk? We knew it had something to do with risk here. But the complexity machine provided the opportunity to make extraordinary profits in the information asymmetries. The notion that I'll get out there and sell you a very complex product and then bet against whether or not that product's ever going to pay off in the way it's supposed to. And it was all there somewhere in the fine print if you understood it. So now the complexity machine is moving into part 3. And that's the political aspect of the complexity machine. A Consumer Financial Protection Agency. It really isn't a very fancy idea. It's a pretty straightforward notion of how we can get simple financial products for most Americans. Put them in their hands, let them make good financial decisions, empower Americans' families. And what's happened? Oh, say the folks in Washington. Oh, say the lobbyists. It's a lot more complex than that. You just don't understand. We need a special rule here and an extra piece there. And it takes us months, actually we're now past a year, to think about this, to think it through, to talk about all of the details. The complexity machine is hard at work. And I'm just going to be blunt about the complexity machine here. The point of the complexity machine here is to create a smokescreen to permit people in Congress to be able to vote with the banks and against families and have some cover. So complexity has become the issue, and I just want to be clear about this. This is not a hard issue that we face in financial regulation right now. This is families versus banks. It's that straightforward, and I want to be clear. This is not liberals versus conservatives. This is not Republicans versus Democrats. It is not a partisan issue. 96% of Americans want contracts they can read, credit card contracts they can read. That's Republicans and Democrats. There are not statistical differences in how they poll. It doesn't matter who they voted for president, for president last time around. These are issues that cut across the political spectrum because American families do see it as that straightforward. Banks are fighting to kill the contracts and kill the consumer markets so that they can continue to drive up short-term profits. Complexity works for them. It works against those who end up paying, American families.